This experience dates back to around 1983-1984. At the time, I operated a small English language school in southern Osaka. I taught students in all age ranges, although my largest groups were elementary school students to whom I taught junior high level English in Saturday's Sunday morning classes. Since the classes were quite long, I'd sometimes tell the students about my paranormal experiences in dealing with the spirit world during breaks. I happened to have a brother and sister in one of those classes who lived in a Buddhist temple where their father was the priest. It was a rather well-known temple in the community where my school was. One morning, the older sister, Miyoko, not her real name, came up to me during a break and said that she told her dad about my psychic abilities and that he had a place that he'd like me to look at. I'd met Miyoko's mom when she signed up at my school, so I decided to phone her and get more information. Back then, I was working 7 days a week from morning until after 9 in the evenings, so we agreed on a meeting at their temple after 9:30. I just finished parking my car in the temple's parking lot when Miyoko, her brother Kento, not his real name, and their mom came out to greet me. They guided me into their dining room, where I met their father and another priest. Their father told me that he'd like me to take a look at an abandoned house nearby, which had become rather famous due to a ghost or ghosts that were rumored to appear there. He went on to explain that the house had even appeared on TV and that various exorcists had attempted to cleanse the house without success and had given up due to fear. As the second priest listened to the explanation, he interjected comments that showed that he didn't believe in the spirit world. At one point, he boldly stated, "If there are bad vibrations around, I'll grab them in my hands and cast them away." A comment which I still clearly remember today, almost some 4 decades later. After I listened to the story about the haunted house, I was about to explain how bad I was with directions and that I doubted that I'd be able to find the place. Fortunately, my students had me covered and had already told their dad beforehand about my bad sense of direction. He explained to me that he'd told the other priest in the room about this place before and that he was interested and would take me there to have a look. I got in the priest's car and he talked non-stop as he drove. He went into how unexplained phenomena are usually psychological in nature, and I became convinced that he most certainly didn't believe in anything to do with the paranormal. Soon after going through a train crossing, he pulled his car over and parked on the side of the road. We got out and he pointed to an abandoned house across the road near the tracks and said, "That's it," in a rather cheerful voice. I looked at the broken-down house, lit in the weak light of the streetlight that barely revealed its outline. As I got closer, I saw a young woman with long black hair on the second floor. A voice boomed in my head, saying, "I'm revealing myself to you, so leave me alone." I turned to the priest and said, "Reverend, there's a woman's spirit on the second floor. She said that she's revealed herself and to please leave her alone." The chatty priest, who had kept up a persistent monologue up to a few minutes before, didn't respond to my statement. Instead, he seemed to be starting to return to his car. I called after him, saying, "Reverend, please wait a moment. I was asked to check out this house and I'd like to take a look at the first floor." He continued walking towards his car while I went onto the property and peered through one of the shattered ground floor windows. I didn't see anything inside and was satisfied that I'd kept my promise to look at the house. I went back to the priest's car where he was already sitting waiting in the driver's seat. I got in and noticed that he looked rather pale, but reasoned that it might be the result of the dim lighting. The priest tried to put his key in the ignition switch, but I noticed that his hand was shaking too hard to stick it in. I tried to give him a hint to get back to normal by saying, "Abdominal breathing usually helps when you need to relax." He didn't answer me and kept stabbing at the ignition switch for what was probably more than 20 seconds. After he finally got it in and fired up the engine, he jumped on the gas and pulled a high-speed 180. He drove like a madman back to the temple where he let me off without saying anything. As soon as I shut the door, he pulled out like a bat out of hell and sped off into the night. It was quite late, so I decided to phone my student's mom with my report the next morning. When I called her, I also mentioned my concern about the priest. The priest's well-being was at the back of my mind for most of the remainder of the week, and I finally called her again the next week to find out the aftermath. My student's mom said that she'd become concerned after talking to me and phoned the priest's wife afterwards. It seems that he was still shaking uncontrollably when he got home and went straight to bed. He was sick in bed for close to half a week. My take on what happened is that he probably got scared when I told him about the woman and ignored my warning. He probably tried chanting a sutra or invocation that he'd obviously have learned along the way to becoming a priest. Unfortunately, such protections only work when you have strong belief and know what you're doing. Using a misguided protection can make a spirit quite angry